what was it? That stuff's
stuff's not hard.
Not hard. So if that's not hard and this is the result, what's going to happen when it is hard? And I have a real problem with minimizing what Mahomes did and to try to put it into a context of this isn't hard,
right,
and disregarding the problems that you have, because to me, then you're not going back into the film room and back to the next week of practice and really trying to dial in on what needs to be fixed. If you're just disregarding it as it was fluky or it's not who we, that becomes a real problem, because you start overlooking stuff that now shows up week in and week out.
Well, Branch did a similar thing. He said, we beat ourselves. We beat ourselves. So, look, I want to say different teams and different players react differently to losses or whatever. But this does feel like a team being frazzled. And it reminds me of the Ravens. Like, clearly we see the Ravens knowing their S-Bob, knowing that the Chiefs have been their kryptonite, and when they play them, or, you know, whether it was the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties a few years ago in the AFC Championship game, but they just seem to get flustered and so upset when they lose to them. That's what I saw. Now, I think the Bills, even though they're S-Bob, I think they've handled things pretty well. There's some other,
yes.
Philadelphia, we know they have their issues, but they seem to be, you know, fairly even keeled with losses like this. This just felt like a team that knows it's under the gun to win the Super Bowl and wanted to come out and make a statement and wasn't able to do it, and they didn't react maturely.
Yeah, I'm surprised this game tilted their all-pro safeties the way it did. I mean, Kirby Joseph was first-team all-pro last year. Brian Branch is a great player. The Lions came into that game on the longest winning streak in football. I know you guys mentioned it yesterday. I think this game's in the balance. Amon-Ra St. Brown has his first drop in literally 2 years. First drop in 2 years, and the game is kind of played on the Chiefs' terms from thereafter. To not just take your loss like a pro.
Yeah, we'll get better.
Hey, they're a great team. They're better than their record suggests. That's why they've been to all these Super Bowls. We'll see them in February, maybe. Like that, and Dan Campbell did that. Like Dan Campbell, I thought after the game, and he's like, I love Brian Branch. This isn't who we are. Dan Campbell, I thought, had great leadership. But I thought from the end of the game, Coach, worried me. And I'm going to keep harping on this. Their identity is toughness. It is the opening drive. You have a 9-minute smash-mouth opening drive. You have 4th and goal from the 6-inch line. And you don't trust David Montgomery. Instead, you ask Jared. The first play, remember, was going to be a Jared Goff rollout. Dan Campbell called timeout. The Chiefs had that one dead to rights. And then they decide, we're going to have Jared Goff go try to catch a pass.
They are a cute team, though. Yeah. They like to be cute.
I just don't think that was, I guess, the time and place for it. 4th down on the opening drive.
Yeah, well, that's always been who the Lions are. So to try to act like it's because they don't trust their team or this or that makes absolutely zero sense. Listen, the whole facing Mahomes ain't hard type thing is one of the dumbest conversations. The fact that these guys can't see what he's trying to say, I find quite shocking. And I expect more from Mangini, who is actually a coach. He should understand that this is the way how an athlete is going to talk. What he's essentially saying is, stop trying to act like Mahomes did something magical or great and it was just so difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's always been who the Lions are. So to try to act like it's because they don't trust their team or this or that makes absolutely zero sense. Listen, the whole facing Mahomes ain't hard type thing is one of the dumbest conversations. The fact that these guys can't see what he's trying to say, I find quite shocking, and I expect more from Manini, who is actually a coach. He should understand that this is the way how an athlete is going to talk. What he's essentially saying is stop trying to act like Mahomes did something magical or great, and it was just so difficult, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't keep up. He's saying we can do it. We can compete, we can contain. We just were unable to do it this game. We did not do our job. We played poorly, etc., etc. That is how an athlete is going to feel. That is how an athlete is going to think. That makes sense. That's how all of these athletes are going to think. They're going to think we're better team. We're better than what we had 30-17. We made things easy, right? This was about us losing, not them just being better than us. It makes sense that the roster, that the players themselves are going to have that type of reaction. Now, the coaching staff should have a different reaction. The coaching staff has to look at things through a much more grounded 360-degree lens. It's easier for a Dan Campbell or whoever to be like, our team's not good enough. Mike Smith, John Williams, they're not good. They're too slow. They are not good enough. They can't do this. They can't do that. They can do this. They can kind of do that. They have to have the real honest views and analysis and clear lens. Not the players. Not the players. I told you guys this. This is actually aged perfectly a couple years ago. I said this is one of my earliest takes. This is when Baker Mayfield's stock was a little bit lower. I said it'll be too hard to ever find in the clip. I said I guarantee you Baker May, because Nick was like saying Patrick Mahomes makes everyone afraid. And I said, no, he doesn't. I said, that's ridiculous. They're not afraid of Patrick Mahomes. No, none of these players are afraid of each other, especially the top dogs, especially the ones that are really confident. And I said, I guarantee you Baker Mayfield right now sees himself as better than Patrick Mahomes, that he thinks in his mind, in his heart of all hearts, if I was on a better team, if I had Andy Reid, if I got drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs, if I didn't get drafted to the Cleveland Browns, I would be Patrick Mahomes right now. And people were like, that's ridiculous. There's no way who, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? Go watch Baker Mayfield play and tell me that he does not believe that he's better than Patrick Mahomes. He believes it in his heart. I'm not. I'm saying it's true. I'm not saying it's even close to being true. But there is no way that Baker Mayfield walks onto that field and looks and sees Patrick Mahomes on the other side and says, that guy is better than me. That is a better quarterback than me. He does not think that at all. He does not believe that at all. And so that was the reaction here. That is what we witnessed. It's human psychology 101. It's athlete psychology 101. To try to pretend like it's anything else, but that is absurd. It's either confusion or being disingenuous. And that's why I hold Mangini to a higher regard, because he's been around these athletes forever. He's had these conversations. He understands it. He should know how to translate. So it's not a matter of them like now not putting in the work or whatever, and now that they're just saying, oh, this was a one-off. And so now that's ridiculous. To follow that line of logic is just not right. It's just not. And again, if you're an actual coach or analysis and you want to have the real conversation of saying, hey, this team isn't good enough, you like, what did you want him to say? We're not good enough. Patrick Mahomes is just too good for us. Like, what do you think he's going to say in that moment? And if you want to have a larger conversation about like, why are they so angry or this or that, take your loss like a champ. Again, I will just point to Chris Jones literally crying to the media when they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. So again, stop with the chloral, with the pearl clutching. Again, I'm not saying the Lions handled them well. I'm not saying that what Branch did was okay. I skipped all over it because I quickly made a video, and then when I saw the highlights of it, I was like cringing. And I wish I emphasized that a little bit more smoothly in my previous Detroit Lions clip. But I don't think any of it is good. I'm not a fan of any of it at all, whatsoever. I do not support any of the aftermath. I don't support any of the fighting. I do not support any of the sound bites post-game. I always thought if I was the GM, if I was the owner, if I was just an owner rather than even just a coach, I'd be like, I want you guys to say pretty much nothing. You say nothing but positives about the other team and your own team. Everything else we keep in-house. Credit to the Kansas City Chiefs. They beat us good. We got to be better. And yeah, that's it. Oh, what could they do? How hard is it to face Mahomes? Mahomes is great. He's always going to bring it. We just got to be better. How can you guys be better? We just got to look at the film. You have any ideas? Anything kind of sign out to you? No, I just got to think about it more and, get together with the coaches and we'll find a way through it. I believe in this guy. I believe in this team. We have a great team. I'm excited. I think this was a good moment. We put some good stuff on film. We're going to learn and grow from it. And hey, anytime you get to play someone like Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Spags, it's always a great experience and always room to grow. Even Tom Brady continued to learn and grow right up until the very day that he retired. And you move on. Be super generic, vague, whatever. That is what I preach. That is what I support. I'm glad we don't get that. I'm glad, because that's boring and that's generic. So I'm glad that we get the honest sound bites. Honestly, I really am. But stop trying to pretend like it's something that it's not. And again, the fighting, do not agree with it at all. Crying to the media, the tweeting, whatever. I do not agree with any of it. Like I said, if I was the owner, if I was the coaching staff, I'd be ripping him. I'd be like, what is going on here? No. And it would be concerning, I think, when you see your team react that way, because you're like, what the heck? We should be a lot more buttoned up. We should be a lot more, resilient to a loss. But I think there's frustration. I think, some of the players on defense know that they're a much better defense, but they're getting injured and they're always on their back foot and they always have to overcome losses, and that's tough. That's tough. It's exhausting. Anyone who's ever actually played a sport, who's been on a team where, you're surrounded by guys that are just not good enough, it's defeating. It's deflating. It absolutely positively is. And so I think that's some of the boil over that you're potentially getting as well. And so it is up to Dan Campbell to keep it all together, because, it's back-to-back seasons now that they're really hurt on the defensive side of the ball. And, we can keep trying to pretend that it's just like, oh, you got to find your way through it. You got to find your way through it. And we can point to like random examples, and it's just like, there's not always a way through it. There's not always a solution to the problem. And as a player, you're going to be frustrated by that. You got to be better at managing it. But the pearl clutching is exhausting, and try to pretend like we don't understand what these athletes are saying when they're talking about facing Mahomes, facing MJ, facing LeBron. Like, it's how they talk. It's how they speak. It's how you have to believe. Tell me right now, you don't think Baker Mayfield thinks that he is the best quarterback in the NFL. Tell me that he does not believe in his heart of all hearts that if he got drafted to the Eagles, the 49ers, the Bills, the Chiefs, that he would be an MVP and Super Bowl champion. So when he steps on the field, he does not think that he is not as good as Josh Allen, as Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, whatever. That is how it works. Jalen Hurts believes it. Brock Purdy believes it. Aaron Rodgers believes it. Bo Nix believes it. Bo Nix, in his heart of all hearts, believes that he could be the greatest quarterback of all time. Caleb Williams, in his heart of all hearts, believes that he could be the greatest quarterback of all time. So does Jaden Daniels. So does Drake May. Drake May truly believes in his heart of all hearts that he could win more Super Bowls with the New England Patriots than Tom Brady. He believes it in it to his core. That's how it works. That's how it works, especially when you're young. Maybe once you start hitting 30, 31, 32, right? You start getting a little bit older, get a little bit more mature, then you can start to be like, yeah, other players are better than me. I am not as good as said player. That takes a lot of time and experience, and that takes a lot of humbling. The only reason why I even know it is because I have been humbled in my own life, again and again and again and again. But if you keep having success earlier on in your career, you're like, what's there to humble you? What's there to tell you that you're not the greatest gift to this earth? Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions? Are you worried about the Lions? Are they going off the rails? Goth the rails? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.